I was sitting in a Chick-fil-A parking lot eating waffle fries when my marriage died. The notification popped up on my iPad, the one I'd given my wife Emily for Christmas last year, the one she apparently forgot was still synced to my iCloud account. A photo message. I tapped it without thinking, expecting maybe a meme or a grocery list reminder. Instead, I saw my wife's face, her mouth, her eyes looking up at the camera with an expression I hadn't seen in years. And below that face, a man's bare chest, his hand tangled in her blonde hair. The caption read, "Can't wait for Thursday. Greg's bowling night." Greg. That was me. Greg Patterson, 41 years old, regional sales manager, married 15 years, father of 2. The guy who actually believed his wife when she said she was taking up yoga on Thursday evenings. My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the iPad. The waffle fries turned to cardboard in my mouth. I sat there in my Silverado, watching the lunch crowd come and go, while my brain tried to process what I was seeing. The timestamp said 11:47 a.m., 12 minutes ago. She'd sent this 12 minutes ago, probably from our house, maybe from our bed, to some guy whose face I couldn't see but whose chest I'd apparently been paying for her to admire. I checked the recipient, a contact labeled Denise W. from her yoga class. Except I'd met Denise Williams at a barbecue last summer. Denise was 56, had 3 grandkids, and spent most of that afternoon showing everyone photos of her Pomeranians. This wasn't Denise's number. My fingers moved on autopilot, scrolling up through the message thread. What I found made my stomach drop through the floor of my truck. 6 months. 6 months of messages, photos, and plans. 6 months of my wife telling someone named Kyle Brennan how much she needed him, how boring her life was, how her husband was too focused on work to notice anything anymore. 6 months of her sneaking around while I was at my Thursday night bowling league. The league I joined because she said I needed more hobbies outside of work. The messages painted a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't look away from. Kyle was 32, worked as a personal trainer at the gym where Emily had started going in January. She'd told me she wanted to get back in shape after the holidays. I'd been proud of her dedication, even paid for a year-long membership up front. Premium package, $1,200. I'd literally paid for my wife to meet her lover. The affair had apparently started in February, just after Valentine's Day. The Valentine's Day, where I'd surprised her with a weekend trip to Asheville. She'd seemed distracted the whole time, kept checking her phone. I'd thought she was worried about the kids staying with her mother. Now I knew better. I sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, reading every message, looking at every photo she'd been stupid enough to send through a device connected to my account. The detail was overwhelming. They'd been together at the Marriott off Highway 74 at least a dozen times. They'd met up during her lunch breaks from her part-time job at the real estate office. They'd even been together last Tuesday afternoon when I'd taken the kids to their dentist appointments. She'd texted him while I was sitting across from her at dinner, while we were watching TV, while we were lying in bed. The Thursday night pattern was the most elaborate. Emily would drop our kids, Amber, 13, and Tyler, 10, at her mother's house for dinner with Grandma. Then she'd meet Kyle at various hotels around Charlotte. She'd be home by 9:30, smelling like shower gel, claiming yoga had been intense. I'd kissed her hello every single time. My phone buzzed. Emily calling. "Hey babe, can you pick up milk on the way home? We're almost out." Her voice sounded normal, cheerful even, like she hadn't just sent intimate photos to another man 2 hours ago, like she wasn't planning to see him again in 2 days. "Sure," I heard myself say. "Anything else?" "Nope, that's it. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. Not that I would have. The words felt like broken glass in my throat. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. Same face I'd had this morning when I'd left for work. Same receding hairline, same tired eyes, same small scar above my left eyebrow from a car accident when I was 16. But everything else had changed. The man looking back at me was an idiot. A sucker who'd spent 15 years building a life with someone who was busy building a separate life behind his back. I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford our 4-bedroom house in a good school district. I'd skipped lunches to save for family vacations. I'd turned down a promotion that would have required relocation because Emily said she didn't want to uproot the kids. And the whole time, she was taking pictures for Kyle. But here's the thing about being a sales manager for a medical supply company. You learn to control your reactions. You learn to smile when you want to scream. You learn to think 3 steps ahead while maintaining a calm exterior. You learn that information is power, and showing your hand too early is the fastest way to lose. So I didn't drive home and confront her. I didn't call her back screaming. I didn't smash my iPad against the pavement. Instead, I took screenshots. Hundreds of them. Every message, every photo, every detail of Emily's double life. I uploaded them to a new cloud account she didn't have access to. I emailed them to myself at a personal address she didn't know existed. Then I started making calls. The first call I made wasn't to a lawyer. I sat in that Silverado for another hour, watching people come and go from the Chick-fil-A, living their normal lives while mine had just imploded. My hands had stopped shaking. The numbness I'd felt earlier had crystallized into something else. Something colder. I needed information before I did anything else. The insurance documents were still spread across my passenger seat. I'd been looking for our homeowner's policy when I found them. A stack of medical records Emily had filed away in the box we kept in the garage. Routine stuff, mostly. A mammogram from 3 years ago, blood work, prescription refills, and buried in the middle, dated March 2019, a full STD panel. We'd been married 14 years at that point. I'd gotten back from a sales conference in Dallas that month. We hadn't taken any tests together. We'd never needed to. I picked up the paper again, reading through the results. Everything had come back negative. Clean. But that wasn't what made my stomach turn. It was the date. March 15th, 2019. 5 years ago. I pulled out my phone and opened the Photos app, scrolling back through the years. It took me a while to find what I was looking for, but I knew it was there. Emily had been meticulous about documenting our lives. Every birthday, every vacation, every milestone. There. March 2019. A photo of Emily and me at Tyler's 5th birthday party. She was smiling, her arm around my waist, wearing that blue dress she said was her favorite. We looked happy. Normal. 2 weeks after she'd gotten tested for STDs. I sat back, staring at the ceiling of my truck. The affair with Kyle had started in February of this year. 6 months ago. But this test was from 5 years ago. Which meant Kyle wasn't the first. The realization settled over me like ice water. I'd been so focused on the messages, on the evidence of this affair, that I hadn't stopped to think about the bigger picture. You don't get an STD test in the middle of a 15-year marriage unless you have a reason. I needed to know how deep this went. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. David Blake. We'd gone to college together, stayed in touch over the years. He worked in IT security now, specialized in digital forensics. We'd grabbed beers a few months back, talked about his work. He'd mentioned something about data recovery, about how nothing was ever really deleted from a phone. He answered on the second ring. Greg? What's up, man? I need a favor, I said. My voice sounded steady. Calm. Like I was asking him to help me move furniture. And I need you to keep it quiet. There was a pause. What kind of favor? The kind that involves recovering deleted messages from an iPhone. Another pause, longer this time. Whose iPhone? My wife's. I heard him exhale. Jesus, Greg, you sure you want to go down that road? I'm already down it, I said. I just need to know how far it goes. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Okay, but I'm going to need physical access to the phone, and it's going to take some time. How much time? Depends on how much data we're talking about. Could be a few hours, could be a day or two. And Greg, if she's got iCloud backup enabled, I can pull from that too. Might be easier. I thought about Emily's phone, how she always kept it with her. Getting physical access would be tricky. But iCloud, she uses the same password for everything, I said. I know it. That'll work. Give me the credentials and I can start pulling the backup remotely. She won't even know. I rattled off Emily's email and password, the same one she'd been using since we got married. Her maiden name plus our wedding date. She'd never changed it. Got it, David said. I'll start the download tonight. Should have something for you by tomorrow afternoon. But Greg, you need to be prepared for what I might find. I know. Do you? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if there's more than what you already know, I need to know, I said. All of it. He sighed. All right. I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up and sat there, staring at the insurance papers. The STD test. 5 years ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Don't forget Tyler has soccer practice at 6. Can you pick him up? I've got a showing that might run late. A showing, right. Or maybe another hotel room with Kyle, or someone else entirely. I texted back, got it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, love you. I didn't respond. The second call I made was to my bank. I explained that I needed to review all joint account activity for the past 5 years. The representative sounded confused. That was a lot of data, but I insisted. I wanted every transaction, every withdrawal, every credit card charge. They said they'd have it ready for me by end of business tomorrow. Then I called our credit card companies, all 3 of them. Same request. By the time I was done, it was almost 3 o'clock. I'd been sitting in this parking lot for nearly 4 hours. My lunch was long gone, tossed in the trash. My waffle fries had gone cold and soggy. I started the truck and pulled out onto the highway, heading back toward the office. My phone rang as I merged into traffic. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Is this Greg Patterson? A woman's voice, professional. Yeah. This is Jennifer Cole from Asheville Regional Medical Center. I'm calling about some test results from 2019. We're doing a routine follow-up on patient files and noticed we never received confirmation that you reviewed the results with your physician. I pulled into the right lane, my hands tightening on the wheel. What results? STD screening panel from March 2019 for Emily Patterson. The results were sent to your home address, but we don't have any record of a follow-up appointment. The results were negative, I said. I saw the paperwork. Yes, sir. But our protocol requires a follow-up consultation within 30 days of testing, especially when the patient requests discretion regarding the results. My stomach dropped. Discretion? Yes, sir. Mrs. Patterson specifically requested that the results be mailed to your home address rather than discussed over the phone, and that no voicemails be left regarding the appointment. It's noted in her file. She'd been careful. Even 5 years ago, she'd been covering her tracks. I see, I said. Thanks for calling. Would you like to schedule that follow-up appointment? It's overdue, but no, I said. We're good, thanks. I hung up before she could say anything else. Discretion. Emily had requested discretion. Because she didn't want me to know she was getting tested. Didn't want any phone calls or messages that might tip me off. Which meant she'd known exactly what she was doing. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This was calculated, planned. I drove the rest of the way to the office on autopilot, my mind churning through the implications. 5 years ago. And now Kyle. How many others had there been in between? When I pulled into the parking garage, I sat there for a minute, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Same face I'd had this morning. Same receding hairline. Same tired eyes. Same scar above my left eyebrow from a softball game 10 years ago. But everything was different now. I grabbed my phone and opened a new note. Started typing. Timeline. March 2019. STD test. Negative. February 2024. Gym membership. Met Kyle. August 2024. Discovery. 5 years between the test and Kyle. 5 years of question marks. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Download started. This is going to take a while. Her backup is huge. Lots of photos and messages. I texted back. How far back does it go? Looks like she's got backups going back 7 years. You want all of it? I stared at the message. 7 years. Tyler would have been 3. Amber would have been 6. Everything, I typed. I want everything. The pharmacy receipt was dated March 15, 2019. I'd found it tucked inside the same folder as the STD test results, a small white slip of paper that had somehow survived 5 years of filing and purging. Valacyclovir. 1G tablets. Prescribed by Dr. Janet Wu. I sat at my desk in the home office, the door locked, Emily and the kids asleep upstairs. It was past midnight. I'd told Emily I had reports to finish before a morning meeting. The prescription was for herpes suppression therapy. I pulled up my phone and searched the medication. Antiviral. Used for genital herpes outbreaks. Usually prescribed after an initial diagnosis. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That had stopped sometime around hour 3 of my Chick-fil-A parking lot vigil. Now I just felt cold, clinical, like I was reviewing a competitor's sales strategy instead of evidence that my wife had contracted an STD from someone who wasn't me. I'd never had herpes, never had any STD. I'd been tested during a routine physical 2 years ago. Dr. Patterson had recommended a full panel at 40. Everything came back clean, which meant Emily had either been incredibly lucky or she'd been careful. I thought about the last 5 years. Tyler had been 5. Amber had been 8. We'd gone to Disney World that summer. Emily had seemed normal, happy even. She'd held my hand on Space Mountain while the kids screamed with delight. My phone buzzed. David. Still processing. Found something interesting in the 2018-2019 timeframe. A lot of deleted messages with a contact saved as Jessica M. Same pattern as Kyle. Regular meetups, hotel references. Want me to pull everything? I typed back, yes, everything. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, you sure? This is going to be rough. I'm sure. The dots appeared again. Okay, should have the full extraction by tomorrow afternoon. I'm also running photo recovery. If she deleted pictures, I'll get them back. I set the phone down and stared at the insurance folder. The STD test had been ordered by Dr. Wu at the Women's Health Center downtown. I'd never heard Emily mention that doctor. She usually went to our family physician, Dr. Patterson. But of course she wouldn't go to our regular doctor for something like this. I opened my laptop and pulled up our joint credit card statements. I'd already requested 5 years of records from the bank, but I had digital access to the last 3 years. I started scrolling backward from March 2019. There. March 13th, 2019. Women's Health Center of Charlotte. 285, 2 days before the pharmacy receipt. I kept scrolling. February 2019, January, December 2018, LA Fitness. $89 monthly membership starting January 2018. Not January of this year, when she'd told me she wanted to get back in shape. She'd been going to the gym for 6 years. I'd paid for 6 years of gym memberships that I didn't know about. My email dinged. The bank had sent the full 5-year statement history. I downloaded the PDF and started searching. Hotels. So many hotels. Marriott, February 2019. 187, Hampton Inn, January 2019. 156, Holiday Inn, December 2018. 134. I went back further. November 2018, October, September. The hotel stopped in August 2018. Before that, nothing suspicious for months. Just normal expenses, groceries, gas, Target, Starbucks. So, Jessica M. had been from roughly August 2018 to March 2019. 7 months. Then a gap. Then Kyle, starting February of this year. 6 months and counting. I pulled up a calculator. 14 months total, spread across 5 years. How many others had there been in between? How many had she been careful enough not to leave a digital trail? I thought about the bowling league. I joined 3 years ago in 2021, Thursday nights, 7 to 9:30. Emily had been thrilled. "You work so hard," she'd said. "You should have a hobby." I'd thought she was being supportive. Now I wondered if she'd suggested it. Had she planted the idea? I tried to remember. We'd been at dinner. Amber had mentioned that her friend's dad was on a bowling team. Had Emily jumped on it? Had she encouraged me? I couldn't remember. The memory was too old, too mundane. It had seemed insignificant at the time. My phone buzzed again. Not David this time. Emily. "You still working? Come to bed soon. I miss you." I stared at the message. She'd sent a heart emoji. I typed, "Almost done. Be up in 20. I wasn't going up in 20 minutes. I was going to be here all night. I opened a new browser tab and searched for divorce attorneys in Charlotte. Not the big firms. Those would leak. I needed someone discreet. Someone who handled high net worth cases quietly. The third result looked promising. Lawrence and Klein, family law specialists. Small firm. 2 partners. Reviews mentioned discretion and strategic approach. I bookmarked the page. Then I went back to the credit card statements and started building a spreadsheet. Date, merchant, amount, probable purpose. I color-coded it. Green for normal expenses, yellow for suspicious, red for confirmed affair-related. The spreadsheet was filling with a lot of red. 150 stocks at Hampton Inn on January 18th, 2019. $187 at Marriott on February 9th, 2019. $134 at Holiday Inn on December 20th, 2018. December 20th. 4 days before Christmas Eve. We'd been shopping for the kids' presents. I'd taken a half day off work. We'd gone to Target together, laughing about Tyler's obsession with Legos. That night, she'd said she was meeting her friend Rachel for drinks. Girls' night. She'd come home at 11, smelling like wine and perfume, and kissed me goodnight. I'd believed her. I pulled up Facebook and searched for Rachel Thompson, Emily's friend from high school. They'd been close for years. Rachel had been at our wedding. Her kids played with our kids. I scrolled through Rachel's timeline, going back to December 2018. December 20th, 2018. Rachel had posted a photo at 7 p.m. She was at home with her husband and kids, decorating their Christmas tree. Not out for drinks with Emily. I sat back in my chair. The home office suddenly felt too small. The walls were too close. I could hear the house settling, the furnace kicking on, the sound of Emily rolling over in bed upstairs. Our bed. Where I'd slept next to her for 15 years. How many times had she come home from a hotel and climbed into bed beside me? How many times had she showered first, washing away the evidence? How many times had I kissed her goodnight, tasted wine on her lips, and believed she'd been with Rachel or Melissa or whoever else she'd named? My phone buzzed. David again. Found the start of Jessica M. messages. August 2018. First message. Great meeting you at the conference. Would love to grab coffee sometime. This wasn't random. She met him at a work thing. I pulled up Emily's LinkedIn. She worked part-time at Riverside Realty, doing administrative work. I clicked through her connections. There. Michael Jensen. Real estate broker. Based in Columbia, South Carolina. They'd connected in August 2018. Not Jessica M. Michael J. She'd saved his contact under a woman's name. I clicked on his profile. 45 years old. Married. 2 kids. His profile picture showed him at some real estate conference holding an award. I wondered if his wife knew. I wondered if I should tell her. Then I thought, not yet. Not until I had everything. Not until I knew the full scope. I went back to the spreadsheet and added a new tab. Timeline. I started filling it in. August 2018. Meets Michael Jensen at real estate conference. August 2018. March 2019. Affair with Michael Jensen, Jessica M. March 2019. STD test. Herpes diagnosis. Prescription for valacyclovir. March 2019. Affair with Michael Jensen ends. Last message March 24th, 2019. February 2024. Meets Kyle Brennan at gym. New affair begins. Present. Ongoing affair with Kyle Brennan. 2 confirmed affairs. 14 months of documented infidelity. 1 STD. 6 years of lies. And whatever else David was going to find in the deleted messages. I looked at the clock. 1:47 a.m. In 6 hours, I'd wake up, I'd shower, I'd put on my suit, I'd go downstairs and make coffee. Emily would come down in her bathrobe, hair messy, and smile at me. She'd ask about my meeting. I'd kiss her cheek and tell her it went fine. And she'd never know that I knew. Not yet. Not until I had everything. The manila folder was labeled Medical 2019-2020 in Emily's neat handwriting. I'd pulled it from the filing cabinet in our home office while she was at the grocery store. I was supposed to be looking for our current insurance cards. Instead, I was staring at a piece of paper that made my stomach drop. Comprehensive STD panel. March 14th, 2019. My wife's name at the top. We'd been married for 10 years at that point. We didn't take STD tests. We were monogamous, or at least I'd thought we were. The test showed negative results across the board. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis. But there was a note at the bottom in a doctor's handwriting. Patient reports recent exposure concern. Recommend follow-up in 3 months for conclusive HSV-2 results. HSV-2. Herpes. I sat down at the desk, the folder still open in my hands. This was 5 years ago. 5 years before I discovered the messages with Kyle. 2 weeks after her affair with Michael Jensen had ended, according to the timeline David and I had pieced together. She'd gotten tested because she was worried Michael had given her something. My hands weren't shaking this time. I'd moved past shock weeks ago. Now I just felt cold, methodical. I pulled out my phone and took photos of every page in the folder. There were 3 more test results: April 2019, May 2019, and one from June 2019 that confirmed what the doctor had suspected. Positive for HSV-2. My wife had contracted herpes from her real estate broker boyfriend, and I'd had no idea. I checked the dates against my own medical records, which I'd requested from my doctor's office last week. My last full physical had been in September 2022. Clean. Everything negative. How? We'd had sex regularly throughout 2019, 2020, 2021. Less frequently after that. Her choice, she'd said. She was tired, stressed, going through perimenopause maybe. I'd believed her because why wouldn't I? But if she'd been positive since 2019 and we'd been intimate, the odds of me not contracting it were... I opened my laptop and started searching. Transmission rates, suppressive therapy, asymptomatic shedding, valacyclovir. Daily suppressive dose could reduce transmission by about 50%. Combined with condoms and avoiding sex during outbreaks, the risk dropped even lower. I went back to the filing cabinet and pulled out the folder labeled Prescriptions Current. Inside were the usual suspects: Emily's allergy medication, my blood pressure pills, the kids' occasional antibiotics. And there, on a 3-month automatic refill from CVS, valacyclovir, 500 mg daily. The prescription date was June 28, 2019. She'd been taking it for 5 years. I photographed everything, added it to the folder on my laptop labeled Financial Records that actually contained hundreds of screenshots, bank statements, hotel receipts, and now medical evidence. My phone buzzed. Emily. Got everything on the list. Do we need anything else? I looked at the folders spread across the desk, the evidence of her 5-year deception literally in my hands. No, we're good, I typed back. K home in 20. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. The folders in the right order, the filing cabinet drawer closed. I grabbed the insurance cards I'd actually been sent to find and went downstairs. 20 minutes later, Emily came through the garage door with 4 bags of groceries. She was wearing yoga pants and a fitted tank top, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked healthy, happy, completely unbothered by the fact that she'd been lying to me for half a decade. Can you grab the last 2 bags? She asked, setting hers on the counter. There's ice cream. I went to the garage and retrieved the remaining bags. When I came back, she was already putting away produce, humming something under her breath. Oh, I meant to tell you, she said, not looking up from the refrigerator. I'm meeting Jenna and Lisa for drinks tomorrow night. That okay? Jenna and Lisa, her supposed friends from high school. I'd met them exactly twice in 15 years. Sure, I said. What time? Probably 6:30. I'll be home by 9. I nodded, putting away cereal boxes. Tomorrow was Thursday, my bowling night. Except I'd quit the league 2 weeks ago, told them I had a work conflict. Emily didn't know that yet. Tomorrow night, while she thought I was bowling, I'd be following her to whatever hotel she and Kyle had planned. David had already set me up with a GPS tracker for her car, a small magnetic unit I'd attached under her rear bumper last Tuesday. I'd been watching her movements all week on my phone. She'd gone to the gym Monday and Wednesday. Actually, to the gym, according to the GPS. But tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow was their regular night. You okay? Emily asked. She was looking at me now, her head tilted slightly. Yeah, just tired. Long week. You work too hard. She crossed the kitchen and kissed my cheek. I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn for years. Why don't you take it easy this weekend? We could do something as a family. Maybe take the kids to the lake? The lake house. The one we'd bought 3 years ago as an investment property. The one that showed up on our credit card statements with occasional charges to the local grocery store and gas station, even during months we hadn't been there. I'd already checked the calendar against her message history with Kyle. She'd taken him there twice, told me she was going with her mom to help clean it up. That sounds good, I said. She smiled and went back to the groceries. I finished helping her unpack, then went upstairs to shower. In the bathroom, I opened the medicine cabinet. Her valacyclovir was right there, next to the Claritin and my razor. Generic white bottle with her name on it. I'd walked past it 1,000 times and never questioned it. The label said, for cold sores. A convenient lie. HSV-1 and HSV-2 were different viruses, but the same medication treated both. Easy to explain away if I'd ever asked. But I'd never asked. Why would I? I'd trusted my wife. I turned on the shower and let the water run hot. Tomorrow night would tell me if Kyle was still in the picture or if there was someone new. The messages between them had continued through last week. Same sexual content, same Thursday night plans. But Emily had gotten careful. She'd started deleting messages more frequently, usually within a day or two of sending them. She didn't know David had already pulled everything from her backup. Every deleted message, every photo, every location tag from the past 7 years. We had it all. The herpes diagnosis added a new dimension to everything. It wasn't just emotional betrayal anymore. It was physical risk. She'd exposed me to a permanent virus and then taken precautions to make sure I didn't catch it. Not out of love, but to hide her affair. The calculation in that made my skin crawl. I got out of the shower and dried off. Downstairs, I could hear Emily talking to Amber about something, their voices carrying up through the vents. Normal mother-daughter conversation about homework or friends or whatever 13-year-old girls talked about. My daughter had no idea her mother had been living a double life since she was 8 years old. Tyler had been 5 when it started, 5 years old, and his mother was sleeping with her real estate broker while his father worked 60-hour weeks to pay for their 4-bedroom house in a good school district. I got dressed and checked my phone. David had sent me a message an hour ago. Got the full extraction. You're going to want to see this. Can you meet tonight? I texted back. 8 p.m. Same place. Same place was a sports bar 20 minutes away, far enough from our neighborhood that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. We'd been meeting there twice a week while he worked through the data. I went downstairs. Emily was making dinner. Chicken stir-fry, one of her standards. She looked over her shoulder when I came into the kitchen. David texted, I said. Wants to grab a beer and watch the game. That cool? Of course. Tell him I said hi. I nodded. She had no idea David was the one helping me dismantle her lies, piece by piece. Dinner was normal. Tyler talked about his baseball practice. Amber complained about her English teacher. Emily asked about my day, and I gave her the sanitized version, meetings, calls, the usual. She nodded along, asked follow-up questions, played the role of interested wife. I wondered if Michael Jensen's wife knew yet. I'd found her on social media last week. Rachel Jensen, 43, worked as a dental hygienist. 2 kids, both in college now. Still married to Michael, according to her profile. Still living in the same lie I'd been living in. I hadn't contacted her. Not yet. But her number was saved in my phone, just in case. At 7:30, I grabbed my keys and headed out. Emily was helping Tyler with his math homework at the dining room table. She waved as I left, didn't look up from the textbook. The drive to the bar gave me time to think. Tomorrow night's surveillance would either confirm Kyle was still active or reveal someone new. Either way, I'd have current evidence of ongoing infidelity to add to the historical pattern. David was already at our usual table in the back when I arrived. He had his laptop out, a beer in front of him, and an expression I'd learned to recognize over the past few weeks. He'd found something big. "You're not going to believe this," he said as I sat down. I ordered a beer from the waitress and turned to him. "Try me. I just found out my wife has herpes and has been on suppressive therapy for 5 years to avoid giving it to me." David's eyebrows went up. Jesus. So whatever you found, it's probably not going to shock me at this point. He turned his laptop around. On the screen was a spreadsheet. Dates, names, locations, color-coded by year. "I've been analyzing pattern recognition in her deleted messages," David said. "Looking for repeated contacts, suspicious timing, location data, and I found something." He pointed to the screen. "Michael Jensen, August 2018 to March 2019, 14 months. You already knew about him." I nodded. "Kyle Brennan, February 2024 to present. 8 months, and counting. You knew about him too." "Yeah, but look at this." He highlighted a section in yellow. "July 2020 to November 2020, 4 months. Someone she had saved as Brandon K. Deleted messages show hotel meetups, explicit content, same pattern as the others." My beer arrived. I took a long drink. "And this?" Another highlight, this time in blue. "January 2022 to May 2022, 5 months. Contact saved as Amy R. Same pattern? 4 affairs, not 2. 4. "How many total months?" I asked. David looked at his spreadsheet. 31 months out of the last 6 years. Almost 3 years of active infidelity. I stared at the color-coded timeline of my wife's betrayals. Half our marriage. "There's one more thing," David said quietly. He pulled up a folder of recovered photos. "These are from July 20 to 20, the Brandon K period." He clicked on one. It was Emily, in a hotel room I didn't recognize, wearing lingerie I'd never seen. She was smiling at the camera. The next photo showed her in bed with someone. The angle was careful. You couldn't see his face, just his body. But you could see everything else. There are 43 photos from that affair alone, David said. Similar collections from the others. I closed the laptop. Send me everything. Greg, send me everything. I want it all. He nodded slowly. What are you going to do? I finished my beer and stood up. Tomorrow night, I'm going to follow her. Get current evidence. Then I'm going to a lawyer Monday morning. You need anything else from me? Yeah. Can you recover text messages from a specific number? Michael Jensen's wife. I think she deserves to know what her husband was doing in 2018. David pulled out his phone. Give me her info. I'll see what I can find. I drove home in silence. The house was dark except for the porch light when I pulled into the driveway. Emily's car was in its usual spot, the GPS tracker hidden underneath, ready to lead me to tomorrow night's truth. Inside, she was already in bed, reading something on her iPad. She looked up when I came in. Good game? Yeah, David says hi. That's nice. She set down the iPad. I'm exhausted. Long day. She turned off her light and rolled over. Within minutes, her breathing evened out into sleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about color-coded spreadsheets and hotel room photos and prescription bottles for a virus she'd caught from another man. Tomorrow night, I'd watch her drive to meet Kyle. I'd document it, photograph it, add it to the mountain of evidence that would end this marriage. But tonight, I just listened to her breathe and wondered how long she'd been planning to keep lying. The insurance documents were spread across the kitchen table in neat piles. Health, dental, life insurance, homeowners. I'd been sorting them for an hour, putting together our tax records for the accountant. Emily was upstairs getting ready for work, the sound of her hairdryer a distant hum through the ceiling. I pulled another folder from the filing cabinet. Medical records, 2019-2020. Just routine stuff I needed for the HSA documentation. I flipped through the pages mechanically. Tyler's broken arm from the trampoline incident, Amber's strep throat, Emily's annual physical. Then I stopped. The paper was folded in half, tucked between two insurance EOBs. A lab requisition form from March 2019. The header read, STD panel, comprehensive. My hand went still on the page. The test date was March 15, 2019. We'd been married 14 years at that point. The results showed a full panel: chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, HIV, hepatitis B and C. Everything had come back negative except for one line that made my stomach drop. HSV2, herpes simplex virus. Type 2. Positive. But I already knew about that. David had found the prescription records. What I didn't know was that there'd been a comprehensive STD screening. The kind you get when you've been exposed to something, when you need to know what else you might have caught. I stared at the ordering physician's name. Dr. Patricia Winters, Planned Parenthood. Not our family doctor. Not our insurance. She'd paid cash. The hairdryer shut off upstairs. I heard Emily's footsteps crossing the bedroom floor. I photographed the document with my phone, then slipped it back exactly where I'd found it, folded the same way. My hands were steady. That surprised me. A week ago, finding this would have destroyed me. Now it was just another piece of evidence for the pile. Coffee's ready, Emily called from the top of the stairs. Thanks. My voice sounded normal. Just finishing up these tax documents. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, dressed for work in dark slacks and a cream blouse. Her hair was pulled back in that way she knew I liked. She smiled at me, and I smiled back. And I wondered how many times we'd done this exact dance, how many mornings she'd kissed me goodbye before meeting one of them. You're up early, she said, pouring herself coffee. Wanted to get this done before work. I gestured at the papers. Accountant needs everything by Friday. She leaned against the counter, sipping her coffee. Find everything you need? Yeah, all here. I tapped the folders. You're pretty organized with this stuff. Well, one of us has to be, she grinned. Remember when you tried to do the taxes yourself that one year? We got audited. We got audited. She laughed, and it sounded genuine. Warm. Like the woman I'd married actually existed somewhere inside the stranger standing in my kitchen. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Got the final data dump. You're going to want to see this. Can you meet for lunch? Work, Emily asked. Yeah, distributor issue. I slipped the phone back in my pocket. Might need to run out at lunch. Okay. She set down her coffee cup, checked her watch. I should get going. Mom's picking up the kids after school today. I've got showings until 6. Showings? I kept my face neutral. Busy day. 3 properties in Ballantyne. She grabbed her purse from the counter. New development, lots of interest. Might be late if they want to see them twice. I nodded. The GPS tracker on her car would tell me exactly where she went. David had installed it Sunday night while she was inside her mother's house picking up the kids. It was a good one. Real-time updates, location history, geofencing alerts, the kind corporate fleets use. She kissed me on the cheek. I smelled her perfume, the same one she'd worn for years. Love you. Love you too. The garage door opened, then closed. I heard her car start, back out of the driveway. I waited until the sound faded before pulling out my phone. The tracking app showed her location as a blue dot moving down our street. I watched it turn onto the main road, heading toward her office. Normal route. Normal Tuesday morning. I opened the photo I'd taken of the STD panel and forwarded it to David with a message. Found this in the files. March 2019. His response came 30 seconds later. Jesus, that's right after Jensen. Yeah. She got tested right after that affair ended. I stared at the blue dot on my screen, watching my wife drive to work like this was just another ordinary day. She knew she'd been exposed to something, David texted. Probably why she ended it with Jensen. He gave her herpes and she panicked. That made sense. The affair with Michael Jensen had ended abruptly in March 2019, according to the recovered messages. She'd gotten tested, found out she had HSV-2, and cut him off. Then she'd started the suppressive medication to make sure I never found out. Another text from David. The lunch thing. I've got something big. Can you get away at noon? Yeah. Where? Same place as last time. Park and back. I looked at the insurance documents spread across the table. 14 years of marriage, documented in paper. Every doctor's visit, every prescription, every claim. The mundane record of a family's life. Except it was all built on lies. I gathered the papers back into their folders, filed everything neatly in the cabinet. The STD panel went back in its spot, folded exactly as I'd found it. Emily would never know I'd seen it. My phone showed 8:47 a.m. I had 3 hours until I met David. 3 hours to sit at my desk and pretend to care about sales numbers and distribution contracts. 3 hours to keep wearing the mask. I was getting good at it. David was already waiting when I pulled into the parking lot behind the coffee shop. He'd chosen the same place we'd met before, a local spot off the main drag, the kind of place where nobody paid attention to 2 guys having lunch. He had his laptop open before I even sat down. I found the deleted folder, he said without preamble, the one she thought she'd permanently erased. I set down my sandwich. And? Photos. Hundreds of them. He turned the screen toward me. She kept everything. Every hotel room, every... He stopped himself. You don't need to see them, but they're all dated and geotagged. It's a complete timeline. How far back? 2017. He looked at me. Greg, This goes back 8 years. The sandwich turned to cardboard in my mouth. 8 years. Amber was 5. Tyler was 2. There's more, David said. The metadata shows she was uploading these to a private cloud storage account. Not iCloud, a separate service called Secure Vault. It's encrypted, marketed to people who want to hide things. Can you access it? Already did. She used the same password she uses for everything else. He pulled up another window. There are messages here that go back even further. Text conversations, emails, photos. Some of this is from before you were married. The coffee shop seemed to tilt slightly. Before? 2008. There's a whole conversation thread with someone named Jason Pruitt. Looks like they were together when you two were engaged. I sat back in the chair. We'd gotten engaged in December 2007. Married in June 2008. I'd thought those months were the happiest of my life. Planning the wedding, looking at houses, talking about our future. How long? My voice sounded distant. David scrolled through the files. Based on the messages, it started in January 2008 and ended in May, right before your wedding. 5 months. She'd been with someone else for 5 months while planning our wedding, while picking out flowers and seeding charts and writing vows about faithfulness and forever. There's no gap, David said quietly. From 2008 to now, there's always someone. Sometimes multiple people at once. The longest break I can find is 3 months in 2015. 3 months. Out of 17 years, she'd been faithful for 3 months. How many? I asked. He looked uncomfortable. Counting the ones we already knew about? All of them. David pulled up a spreadsheet. He'd been organizing the data, creating a timeline. Names, dates, duration. It looked like a project plan. 14 that I can confirm with hard evidence. Messages, photos, hotel receipts. There might be more that she covered her tracks on, but these 14 are documented. 14 men. 14 separate betrayals. Some lasting months, some just a few weeks. All while she came home to me, kissed our kids goodnight, planned family vacations, celebrated anniversaries. The STD test you found this morning, David said. That wasn't the only one. She's gotten tested 6 times since 2017. Always at Planned Parenthood, always paid cash. The herpes from Jensen was the only thing that came back positive. Lucky me. Greg, I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I was sitting in a coffee shop learning that my entire marriage had been a performance, that the woman I'd loved, the mother of my children, had never been faithful. Not once. Not ever. There's one more thing, David said. The Secure Vault account has a journal. She's been writing in it since 2012. A journal. Yeah, about the affairs, about you, about... He hesitated. You should read it yourself, but Greg, it's not good. I looked at him. Forward it to me. You sure? All of it. Everything you found. I want to see exactly who I've been married to. David nodded slowly and started typing. My phone buzzed with incoming files. Photos, messages, documents, spreadsheets. The complete archive of my wife's secret life. What are you going to do? He asked. I thought about Emily that morning, kissing me goodbye, telling me she loved me, heading off to her showings while the GPS tracker followed her every move. I'm going to finish documenting everything, I said. Then I'm going to take it all to the attorney. And then I'm going to watch her lose everything she thought she could keep while lying to my face for 17 years. The kids will be fine, better than fine, because they're going to learn that actions have consequences and that their father doesn't let people destroy his life without paying for it. David closed his laptop. I've got enough to keep digging if you need more. Keep digging. I want every detail, every message, every photo, every receipt. When this is done, I want her to know that I know everything, that there's no story she can tell, no excuse she can make that I haven't already seen through. My phone was still buzzing with incoming files. 17 years of lies, all documented and time-stamped and ready for discovery. I picked up my sandwich and took a bite. It tasted like nothing, but I ate it anyway. The manila folder sat on my passenger seat like a loaded gun. Inside, printed screenshots, financial records, David's forensic report, medical documents, hotel receipts. Everything organized chronologically, color-coded tabs marking each affair. 7 years of Emily's secret life reduced to 243 pages of evidence. I'd spent the last 3 days preparing. Hadn't slept more than a few hours total. Emily thought I had the flu, kept offering to make me soup, touching my forehead with concerned hands that had touched 14 other men. I'd let her fuss, let her play the caring wife, all while the folder grew thicker in my locked office drawer. Now it was Thursday. 6:47 p.m. I was parked 3 blocks from our house, engine off, watching my phone. The GPS tracker on Emily's Lexus showed her still in the driveway. Any minute now, she'd load the kids into the car, drive them to her mother's house on Pinewood Drive. Then she'd head to whatever hotel Kyle had booked for tonight. And I'd be right behind her. My phone buzzed. David. Got the journal decrypted. You sure you want to read this? I stared at the message. The journal. Emily's private thoughts about her affairs, about me, about our marriage. David had been working on breaking the encryption for 2 days. Part of me wanted to know. Part of me was already drowning in information I couldn't unknow. Send it. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sending to your secure email. Greg, maybe wait until after tonight. This is heavy stuff. The file came through. 847 pages. A Word document titled Mine. I opened it. Scrolled to a random entry. March 15th, 2019. Michael ended it today. Said his wife found hotel charges, that he needed to work on his marriage. Like I'm just something disposable. Like the last 7 months meant nothing. Got the test results back. Positive for HSV2. I know it was him. He's the only one I've been with since Greg. Had to lie. Tell Greg it was a cold sore, that I've always had them. He believed me. He always believes me. Part of me hates how easy it is. How he just accepts whatever I say. What kind of man doesn't question, doesn't wonder? Sometimes I think I'm testing him, waiting for him to finally notice, to finally care enough to look closer. But he won't. He's too busy with work, with being the provider, with his perfect little life where everything makes sense. He has no idea who I really am. Never has. My hands were shaking. I scrolled further. August 3rd, 2022. Amber asked me today why I'm always on my phone. She's 13 now, notices things. I told her it was work stuff, real estate clients. She looked at me like she didn't quite believe me. She has Greg's eyes. That same trusting, naive look. I wonder if she'll grow up to be like him. Someone who sees what they want to see, who builds their whole world on assumptions. Or maybe she'll be like me. Maybe she already is. I closed the file. Couldn't read more. Not now. The GPS showed movement. Emily's car backing out of the driveway. I started the engine, pulled out from the curb. Kept 3 cars between us as she headed toward Pinewood Drive. The route was familiar. I'd driven it 100 times for Sunday dinners at her mother's house, Emily's mom, Janet, who'd been covering for her daughter's affairs for years. Who'd taken my kids every Thursday night so Emily could screw her personal trainer. I'd deal with Janet later. Emily's Lexus turned into her mother's driveway at 7:03 p.m. I drove past, circled the block, parked where I could see the house. Through the lit windows, I watched Emily hug the kids, watched them disappear inside, watched her walk back to her car with that particular spring in her step she got on Thursday nights. The Lexus pulled out at 7:11 p.m. I followed her south on Highway 74, toward the cluster of hotels near the airport. The same route she'd taken every Thursday for 6 months. My phone was recording. Video pointing at the road ahead. Timestamp in the corner. David had set up a cloud backup that saved everything in real time, just in case. She turned into the Courtyard Marriott parking lot at 7:34 p.m. I drove past, circled back, parked in the adjacent restaurant lot with a clear view of the hotel entrance. Pulled out the camera David had loaned me. Professional grade, telephoto lens, the kind private investigators used. Emily got out of her car. She was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for her birthday. Heels I'd never seen before. Hair and makeup done like she was going somewhere special. She was. She was going to destroy what was left of our marriage on camera. I zoomed in, started shooting. Emily checking her phone. Emily touching up her lipstick in the car window reflection. Emily walking toward the hotel entrance with her overnight bag, the small leather one I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. At 7:41 p.m., Kyle Brennan pulled up in a blue Honda Civic. I'd seen his photo in the deleted messages, but seeing him in person was different. Younger than his 32 years, athletic build, the kind of confident swagger that came from knowing married women paid him to train their bodies and then let him do whatever he wanted with them. He met Emily at the entrance, kissed her. Not a peck, a real kiss, his hand on the small of her back, her body pressed against his. I took 17 photos. They walked inside together. Emily laughing at something he said, her hand in his back pocket like they were college kids instead of a married mother of 2 in her side piece. I waited 10 minutes, then followed them inside. The lobby was busy, business travelers checking in, a small conference group clustered near the elevators. I kept my head down, ball cap pulled low, and approached the front desk. "Can I help you?" The clerk was maybe 22, bored expression, name tag reading, Josh. "Yeah, I'm supposed to meet my buddy Kyle here." "Kyle Brennan?" "He said he was checking in around now, but I don't have his room number." Josh typed on his computer. "I can't give out guest room numbers, sir. Hotel policy." I pulled out my wallet, slid a 50 across the counter. "I understand. But see, it's his birthday, and a bunch of us are planning to surprise him. Would hate to ruin it by calling his cell." Josh looked at the 50. Looked at me. Looked at the 50 again. The bill disappeared into his pocket. "Room 438, 4th floor." "Appreciate it." I took the stairs. 4 flights, my heart hammering harder with each step. Not from exertion, from rage, from the surreal reality that I was about to catch my wife in bed with another man. That this was my life now. 4th floor hallway. Patterned carpet, ice machine humming, smell of industrial cleaner and someone's takeout dinner. Room 438 was halfway down on the left. I stood outside the door, breathing hard. Could hear music playing inside. Muffled voices. Emily's laugh. I pulled out my phone, started recording, then knocked. The music stopped. Footsteps. "Yeah?" Kyle's voice, annoyed. "Hotel maintenance. We've got a leak reported from the room above you. Need to check your ceiling." Silence. Whispered conversation I couldn't make out. The door opened 6 inches, security latch still engaged. Kyle peered out, shirtless, hair messed up. "We didn't call about any leak." "No, sir, the guest above you did. Won't take but a minute to check. Hotel policy, we have to inspect for water damage." He hesitated. I kept my face neutral, phone angled to capture him through the gap. "Now's not really a good time." "I understand, sir, but if there's water damage and we don't document it now, you could be held liable for—" "Fine, Jesus. Give me a second." The door closed. More whispered conversation. 30 seconds later, it opened fully. Kyle stood there in jeans he'd clearly just pulled on, zipper still undone. Behind him, Emily sat on the bed in a hotel robe, blonde hair disheveled, face flushed. She was looking at her phone, hadn't looked up yet. I stepped inside, phone still recording. Thanks, I'll just need to check the… Emily's head snapped up. Our eyes met. I watched the color drain from her face, watched her mouth open, close, open again, watched her brain try to process what was happening, why her husband was standing in a hotel room with her personal trainer at 8:02 on a Thursday night. Greg, her voice came out strangled. How did you, doing here? I finished. My voice was calm, dead calm. Checking for water damage, like I said. Kyle looked between us, finally understanding. Oh shit. Yeah. I pulled out the camera from my jacket, took 3 quick photos. Emily on the bed. Kyle half-dressed. The champagne on the nightstand. The scattered clothes on the floor. Shit pretty much covers it. Greg, please, this isn't… I can explain… Emily stood up, clutching the robe closed. You can explain the 6-month affair? The Thursday night routine? The gym membership I paid for so you could meet him? I took another photo. Or maybe you want to explain the other 13 guys. Because honestly, Em, I'm curious which explanation you think I need most. Her face went from white to gray. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, held it up so she could see the screen, the forensic report, the timeline, the names. Jason Pruitt, Michael Jensen, Brandon K. Amy R. Want me to keep going? I've got 14 years of documentation. Every message, every photo, every hotel receipt. Kyle backed toward the door. Look, man, I didn't know she was… Save it. I didn't look at him. Kept my eyes on Emily. You're 28 in the photos. She told you she was separated, didn't she? That her marriage was basically over, she just hadn't filed the papers yet? His silence was confirmation enough. Greg, Emily's voice cracked. Please. The kids are at your mother's house, where you drop them every Thursday so you can do this. I gestured at the room. Don't worry, I'll pick them up. Wouldn't want to interrupt your evening. I turned toward the door. Wait! Emily lunged forward, grabbed my arm. You can't just… We need to talk about this. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, looked back up at her face. She was crying now, mascara running, the same face that had kissed me goodbye this morning. No, I said quietly. We really don't. I pulled my arm free and walked out. Behind me, I heard her collapse. Heard her start to sob. Heard Kyle's awkward attempt at comfort. I took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, got in my truck, sat there for 5 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then I drove to Janet's house to pick up my kids. The folder on the passenger seat had served its purpose. Tomorrow, my attorney would have everything he needed. Tonight, I just needed to take my children home. I signed the last document at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, 18 months after finding that first message in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. The divorce was final. My attorney, Robert Hayes, a methodical man in his 50s who'd handled everything with surgical precision, slid the papers across his mahogany desk. That's it. You're done. Done. 17 years of marriage reduced to a stack of legal documents and a judge's signature. Emily had fought at first, hired an expensive attorney who'd tried to argue for equal custody, for half of everything, for alimony. Then Robert had presented our evidence. All 847 pages of it, plus the forensic report, the GPS data, the hotel surveillance footage I'd obtained through a private investigator after that night at the Marriott. Her attorney had gone pale, suggested they talk settlement. The final terms were exactly what I'd wanted. Primary custody of Amber and Tyler, with Emily getting supervised visitation every other weekend. The house, both cars. Her retirement account split 70-30 in my favor. No alimony. North Carolina didn't look kindly on adultery, especially not 14 confirmed affairs worth. Emily had moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a cheaper part of town. Lost her job at the real estate office when word got around. Her mother wasn't speaking to her. Turned out Janet hadn't known the full extent of what she'd been covering for. When I'd shown her the evidence, she'd cried and apologized for every Thursday night she'd enabled. Kyle Brennan had disappeared the night I confronted them. Quit his job at the gym, moved back to Ohio according to his social media. The gym had settled my lawsuit quietly. Apparently they had policies against trainers sleeping with married clients. I'd sent the evidence of Michael Jensen's affair to his wife, Rachel. She'd filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Last I heard, she'd taken him for everything he had. We'd exchanged a few emails, two strangers bonded by betrayal, but eventually stopped. Some connections were better left in the past. "How are you doing?" Robert asked, pulling me back to his office. I looked at the divorce decree. Patterson visa Patterson. Case closed. Better than I expected. It was true. The first few months had been brutal. Telling the kids had been the worst part. Watching Amber's face crumble. Listening to Tyler ask if it was his fault. I'd held them while they cried and promised them that some things in life would stay constant. That I would always be their father. That they were loved. They'd been in therapy ever since. Dr. Lisa Garrett, a child psychologist who specialized in divorce trauma. She said they were resilient, that kids could recover from almost anything if they had one stable parent. I'd become that parent. Learned to cook actual meals instead of relying on takeout. Figured out how to braid Amber's hair for school. Showed up to every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference, every school play. The things I'd always done, but now without the distraction of trying to save a marriage that had never really existed. Work had suffered initially. I'd taken a demotion to a position with better hours, less travel. The pay cut hurt, but time with my kids mattered more than a title. My boss had understood. He'd been through his own divorce years ago. "What about you?" Robert asked. "Any plans now that this is behind you?" I thought about that. About the future I got to build now, unencumbered by lies. Tyler's got a baseball tournament this weekend. Amber's birthday is next month. She wants to go to that new escape room place with her friends. I shrugged. Beyond that, I'm just focused on being present. Actually living my life instead of being a supporting character in someone else's deception. Robert nodded. "That's good. That's healthy." He paused. "For what it's worth, I've handled a lot of these cases. The way you approach this, methodical, documented, kept your emotions in check until you had everything you needed. That saved you. A lot of men would have confronted immediately, tipped their hand, lost their leverage. I learned that in sales," I said. "Never show your cards until you're ready to close the deal." Well, it worked. Your kids are protected, your assets are protected, and you've got the truth documented for when they're old enough to understand what really happened. That was important. Someday, when Amber and Tyler were adults, they'd ask questions. They'd want to know why their mother only saw them twice a month, why their parents' marriage had ended so decisively. And I'd have answers. Not bitter ones. I'd worked hard in my own therapy to let go of the rage. But honest ones. Their mother had made choices. Those choices had consequences. And their father had chosen to protect them from the fallout. I stood up, shook Robert's hand. "Thanks for everything. Good luck, Greg. You've got a good life ahead of you." I walked out of his office into the late afternoon sun. The parking lot was half empty. The sky that particular shade of blue you only get in early autumn. September in Charlotte. Still warm, but with the promise of cooler days coming. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Dad, can Jess come over for dinner? Her mom said it's okay if you say yes." I smiled and typed back, "Sure, pizza or tacos?" "Tacos." "You got it, home by 6. I climbed into my truck, the same Silverado I'd been sitting in when my marriage died. I'd thought about trading it in, getting something new without the memories. But that felt like running. This truck had been there when I discovered the truth. Seemed right to keep it for the journey forward. The drive home took 20 minutes. The house looked the same as always. 4 bedrooms, good school district, the place I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford. But it felt different now. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted from the foundation. Inside, I started prepping for taco night. Ground beef, seasoning, toppings laid out assembly line style the way the kids liked. Tyler wandered in from the living room, still in his school clothes. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework after dinner?" "Absolutely. What are we working on?" "Fractions. I don't get the reducing part." "We'll figure it out together." He nodded and headed back to his video game. Normal, easy. No tension, no wondering what secrets were hiding behind closed doors. Amber came home at 5:47 with her friend Jessica. They disappeared upstairs in a flurry of teenage giggles and music. The sound made me smile. Amber had been so quiet those first few months after the divorce. Seeing her laugh again felt like victory. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Tyler spilled salsa on his shirt. Jessica told a story about their English teacher that had everyone cracking up. Amber snuck extra cheese when she thought I wasn't looking. This was my life now. Messy and imperfect and real. After Jessica's mom picked her up, I helped Tyler with his fractions at the kitchen table while Amber did her homework upstairs. We worked through the problems one by one, and I watched understanding click into place behind his eyes. "Got it," he said, solving the last problem on his own. "Knew you would. You're smart, kiddo." "Dad?" He looked up at me, pencil still in hand. "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah, buddy, I am. Are you?" He thought about it. "Mostly. I miss how things used to be sometimes. But I like that you're home more now, and that you're not sad anymore." I hadn't realized he'd noticed I'd been sad, but of course he had. Kids noticed everything. "Me too," I said. "On both counts." That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat in the living room with a beer and my laptop. Opened the folder I'd labeled Evidence and looked at it for a long moment. 18 months of my life, preserved in digital amber. The messages, the photos, the timeline of betrayal. Then I dragged the entire folder to the trash. Paused. Emptied it. I didn't need it anymore. The divorce was final. The truth was documented in legal records if my kids ever needed to see it. Keeping this folder meant keeping the wound open, and I was done bleeding. David had been right that first night in the sports bar. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But you can choose what you do with the knowledge. You can let it consume you, or you can use it to build something better. I'd chosen better. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Rachel Jensen. Just wanted to let you know my divorce was finalized today, too. Thank you for telling me the truth. It saved me from wasting any more years." I texted back, "Congratulations. Here's to new chapters." "To new chapters," she replied, "and to people who have the courage to face the truth." I set down my phone and looked around my living room. At Tyler's baseball trophies on the shelf. At Amber's artwork on the walls. At the life I'd built from the wreckage of my marriage. Some people would say I should be bitter. That 17 years of lies and betrayal should have destroyed me, left me cynical and closed off. But here's what I learned. You can't control what other people do. You can't make someone be faithful or honest or worthy of your trust. All you can control is how you respond when you discover who they really are. I could have confronted Emily that first day in the parking lot. Could have screamed and raged and let emotion drive my decisions. Instead, I'd been methodical, patient, strategic. And because of that, my kids were protected. My future was secure. And I had the satisfaction of knowing that I'd faced the worst moment of my life with clarity and strength. The affair wasn't my fault. The lies weren't my fault. But the recovery, that was mine. The choice to document everything, to protect my children, to rebuild my life on a foundation of truth instead of convenient fiction, those were my choices. And I'd made the right ones. Upstairs, I heard Tyler cough in his sleep, heard Amber's music still playing softly through her closed door. The sounds of my children, safe in their home, with a parent who chose them over everything else. That was enough. More than enough. I finished my beer, turned off the lights, and went upstairs. Tomorrow, Tyler had practice. Amber had a science project due. I had a sales meeting and groceries to buy and a dozen other ordinary tasks that made up a life. But tonight, I was just a father whose kids were asleep under his roof. A man who'd walked through fire and come out the other side. A person who'd learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is also the catalyst for becoming who you were always meant to be. I checked on both kids, old habit from when they were babies. Tyler was sprawled across his bed, covers kicked off. I pulled them back up. Amber was asleep with her earbuds still in. I gently removed them, set them on her nightstand. In my own room, I looked at the bed I'd bought after Emily moved out. King-sized, new sheets, no memories of shared lies. Just a place where I slept soundly now, no longer wondering what secrets were hiding in the darkness. The truth had set me free. Not immediately. Truth is rarely that kind. But gradually, over 18 months of therapy and legal battles and hard conversations with my kids, the truth had given me something Emily's lies never could. Peace. I lay down and closed my eyes, and for the first time in 17 years, I knew exactly who I was sleeping next to. Myself. Whole, honest, and free. That was the real victory.